Welcome to the broadcast, everybody. You'll have to excuse me if the camera wobbles a bit. I can't help but lean on my desk, which I've positioned here for the moment. So just bear with me, my dears, while I'm getting used to my new surroundings and finding different ways to record. We'll get there eventually. Look what turned up in the post. Click those heels together 3 times. And there's no place like home. Oh, these aren't ruby, aren't they? They're gold, but these are the heels that I told you about. I shall create a little vignette to show them off, and I shall be wearing them for you in a gown parade in a forthcoming broadcast. So you'll get to see them and my pins and my blue frock in all of its glory. Aren't you lucky? Aren't I good to you? I'm sure some of you are recoiling in terror and horror at the very thought of it, but that's just tough titty, I'm afraid, my dears, tough titty. Speaking of which, Joan Collins popped up on an Instagram feed with a photograph of Bessie Wallis Simpson, and she said, "I'm delighted to be playing Wallis Simpson, the Duchess of Windsor, in an untold story about her final years, to start shooting soon in London and Paris." And it struck me the remarkable similarity, as we've discussed many times, between Wallis Simpson and the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan, and you see it so very clearly in this photo, don't you? Which I think is actually a rather flattering portrait of Wallis, this particular photograph. You see it so clearly, so plainly, and especially I think I can also see Samantha Markle. Yes, I can. Around the mouth. Do you see what I mean, my dear? That slight grin there. Enigmatic like the Mona Lisa. Not quite, but yes, I can definitely see a similarity, a facial similarity there. And we all know that the Duchess of Sussex appears to be extremely influenced by the Duchess of Windsor in many, many different ways, doesn't she? More's the pity. Well, Joan Collins has also been hanging around with old Fergie, hasn't she? Fergie the Lurgie. Yes, she has, who has become a granny again. Her Royal Highness Princess Beatrice and Mr. Edoardo Mapelli-Mozzi are delighted to announce the safe arrival of their daughter, Athena Elizabeth Rose Mapelli-Mozzi, born on Wednesday the 22nd of January at 12:57 p.m. The baby was born weighing 4 pounds and 5 ounces, and the King and Queen and other members of the royal family have all been informed and are delighted with the news. Princess Beatrice and Mr. Mapelli-Mozzi would like to thank all the staff at the hospital for their wonderful care. Her Royal Highness and her daughter are healthy and doing well, and the family are enjoying spending time together with Athena's older siblings, Wolfie and Sienna. Well, isn't that very nice to have some happy news? Really nice, splendid news for all of us. I shall put some timestamps in the description for those of you who wish to hop about between subjects, because we're going to have a look at some keepsakes that have been arriving for basketeers. One of the armchairs that I've ordered, one of the gilt armchairs, the cream one, didn't arrive last week when I was expecting it to. The courier let me down without even telling me, and I stayed in all evening to take receipt of it. It didn't arrive, but it's due on Wednesday, so at least I will then have a pseudo-throne, if you will, to broadcast from for a little while. But back to the keepsakes. All of you who have actually made payment for a keepsake have now had your keepsake sent off to you in the post. It's been dispatched. Some of them have been received. Some of them have not as yet. Fingers crossed they will do soon. It can take some time, especially to go abroad, my dears. Please email us back, respond to us when you receive them to let us know, because we want to take inventory of when they're all received. So I'd really appreciate that, and I really do appreciate the lovely, charming vignettes that some of you have written back with. Everybody's expressed their absolute delight at receiving their keepsakes. Hilary Bradford here sent in this enchanting vignette of these treasures in the snow. Isn't it gorgeous, surrounded there by all of that white, glittery stuff? Just gorgeous. That reminds me, Treasures of the Snow. Patricia St. John is the author, and it was one of my favourite childhood books. Love it. And actually it gave me a lifelong love of the name Lucian. I think the baddie in that novel was a young child by the name of Lucian, but I thought it was a lovely name. Lucian. Gorgeous. And she's placed me there next to Her Late Majesty. Quite an honour, isn't it? It really tickles me to think of my humble photograph, my portrait, taking pride of place on so many mantles up and down the kingdom and way beyond. Very flattering, my dear. It's wonderful and lots of fun. Victoria here displays her keepsake on regal red. And I notice in your one, my dear, slightly dog-eared the photograph, just ever so slightly. I just want you to know that when I pack them all myself, by hand. I do check every single item that goes in to check that nothing is dog-eared whatsoever or creased. So I don't know if that happened in the post or when you were fingering it, but regardless, I hope you're happy with it. Actually, that's one of the reasons why I left the black borders on, so that you can finger the photographs at your want and whim and place them in frames and they won't be sullied. Do you see? I was thinking ahead. Of course I was. Sarah and Olivia Baker sent beautiful vignettes with pride of place on mantles there, which was wonderful. I think mother and daughter, Sarah and Olivia. Quite a few people wrote in asking for treasures to pass on to family members. So many of you watched together with your mum and your dad, with your kids. Oh, it's, well, I never designed this to be a family show, but that seems to be what's become in some places. The house was built in 1826, where Sarah and Olivia right in from. But the tree is older than the house, apparently, and it's a spectacular vision there, that tree. Wonderful, wonderful. The tree is likely dying, they've been told by tree specialists, but they refuse to take it down. And this was taken during an unexpected snowstorm in Washington, NC, this was, North Carolina. Cynthia Brenner displayed hers next to royal purple velvet. Delicious, delicious there. And Maggie Thomas, our Margaret, placed me so that I could keep her ornamental creatures company. Isn't that jolly? Isn't that very jolly? Over the hearth. This one belongs to Jennifer Cutlack, and as you can see, I'm on the roof here, like Father Christmas. How wonderful of this doll's house that would put Queen Mary's doll's house to shame. And here, this one, belonging to Michelle. Michelle Demure vintage furnishings here, showcasing the keepsake in another elegant and cosy home. And then we have finally here Jodie Ward, who has displayed hers beautifully here, together with a blue pineapple. And as I've told you many times, one of my favourite pubs and my locals is the Pineapple of Kentish Town. Actually, I went there over New Year and recorded a tiny little bit of footage. So I'll play that just so you can see how beautiful some of our pubs are with their original features and cosy fireplaces. And at the Pineapple, some of you will know you walk through a red velvet curtain as you walk in. It's quite theatrical, but it really is a gorgeous pub. And one time anyway, I remember it used to be filled with lots of pineapple artefacts. It was once a very exotic fruit, which of course symbolises welcome. So welcome to the broadcast. Okay, here we go. With a comment from Anne Campbell. Now, I'm not actually a great fan of commenters shouting in capital letters. You understand? You see them sometimes in comment sections, don't you? And I will usually raise an eyebrow and not be too pleased about the attention seeking. But in your case, Anne Campbell, something about it charmed me and something about it made me giggle. It was quite disarming. Disarmed by your fruity flight of fancy. But you made a decent point, moreover. You said, Dear River, the Monty Shit Show duo flops, see below. 40 by 40, ... Pearl, coffee, lemonada. Yeah, what's happened to lemonada? Gone flat. The Bench, Oprah, meet me at the lake. Meet me at Ricky Lake. Disney, Spotify, Spare, Better Up, Travelers, Netflix, Doco, Invictus, Polo, Cooking, Arrow Jam, Uvalde, the LA fires. Can you think of any more? Well, when you write it like that, my dear, you know, and one looks it over, it is a litany of flops, isn't it? Exactly as you describe. Exactly as you describe in your capital letters. A litany of flops. And damp squibs. And, you know, they tell us, oh, well, she's got dozens of irons in the fire. You know, the cauldron's bubbling away with all of her entrepreneurship. Irons in the fire. The truth is that the fire seems to have roasted out those irons into cinders, doesn't it, my dear? Because there ain't much left of those irons in the fire. You mentioned the LA fires. Well, I was absent, wasn't I, during this time? My 11 weeks of absence. I was only away for 11 weeks. The way some of you talk, it's as if I was away for 11 years. And I'm flattered to be missed, by the way. Extremely flattered, so don't get it twisted. But there have been a few rather hysterical comments, predictably, from people worrying. They were worried about me, worried about this, that, and my health. Was I dead or alive? And I find it a bit over the top, to be quite honest with you, my dear. I informed everybody that I would be away. Yes, I said for a few weeks, and it went on longer. But actually, if you were so invested, you would have seen that I kept updating the comment section under the last video. It's still there, pinned comment. I kept updating people saying, sorry, this is ongoing, but I'm going to be away for a while longer. The reasons are not sinister. I said that. But I will be back as soon as I can. But still people keep on, it seems to be talking amongst themselves and coming to all kind of wrong conclusions and worrying about my health. For the record, I've never had a day of ill health in my life. And I say this with every awareness that I could drop dead now. I could drop dead today. Nothing is guaranteed, and tomorrow certainly isn't. But I haven't had an ill day of health other than the common cold in my entire life. Not one day in hospital, not one diagnosis, not one operation, not one broken bone. And as I've expressed to you before, my blood tests have always come back excellent. Before and after various dieting regimes and during. And so people do jump to some very strange conclusions and worry over absolutely nothing, don't they? But I will say that I did end up being absent through no fault of my own, I've got to tell you. Circumstances beyond my control and to do with the conveyancing and the moving and the interim. I was also absent during my favourite time for broadcasting. I had planned quite a lot for a lovely, cosy Christmas together, if you will, sparkly November, festive December. You know, I love all of that, don't I, my dear? It's one of my favourite times to broadcast, and it's not so hot and sticky as well. So we missed all of that, but I'll make up for it this year, God willing. I'll make up for it this year with you. I could have filmed. I had a phone, which is what I record on. I could have picked it up and vlogged to you and come to you from anywhere, but I have a particular standard and I have a particular focus of energy that is needed to broadcast to you, my dear. So I decided to wait until I could broadcast in the fashion that I am accustomed to doing. Do you understand? I'm sure you do. And then, of course, there was the election. My final broadcast to you last year was about the election and the likelihood of Mr. Trump becoming president, and he now is 47 as well as being 45, isn't he? I would like to offer, first of all, my commiserations to all of you who did not vote for President Trump. I understand what it is like to be on that side of the lollipop and what a bitter taste it leaves in one's mouth. And everybody votes for reasons that they believe their candidate will improve society, don't they? So I offer you my sincere commiserations, I truly do. And to those of you who voted for Mr. Trump, congratulations, my dears. Congratulations to you. Whether you like him or not, and many of you do and many of you don't, it didn't stop you from voting for him in your millions, receiving the popular vote, being received with a lot of enthusiasm, and let's focus on what I perceive to be potentially good things about this administration. I'm sure there are many, many, many things that are troubling about it, but for the purpose of the new year, one thing that I am particularly impressed with is the zero tolerance for woke mischief that we've all come to know so very well over the last few years. No tolerance for that, my dear. Zero. Not afraid to say it. And actually, that's probably why he won the popular vote, my dear. No tolerance for DEI and all of that mischief. No tolerance for all the bullshit about gender and biological sex and various denials about the human body and the facts of life. Basically, the restoring of common sense. Wokery is being suffocated. It has not been eliminated or stamped out, far from it, my dear, but it is being suffocated, which must be welcomed. I'm not talking about healthy wokism of generations past. I'm talking about the recent mischief. And the recent mischief of wokery came to these shores, to the shores of the kingdom via America. Critical race theory, various denials of biological sex, all this kind of thing. Really, it came through as an unfortunate influence of America. America is the world's superpower for many years, even though it's diminishing in many ways. And and being an empire of sorts, to follow on from the British Empire. It's a superpower. It has protected us. It has been a great ally to us here in the kingdom, and a positive, fun influence in many ways, but it has also come at a price, and we have also assumed some of the less desirable aspects of what goes on in the States, which is even more difficult now to hold at bay because of platforms like this, where we all get to know each other and influence each other for the good and for the bad. You know, we've all become very interconnected, haven't we, my dears? And, you know, Bessie Joe in Utah or Ohio or Oregon, speaking about the states here, versus the kingdom, you know, feels a kinship with me, little old river in the heart of the capital of the kingdom. Do you understand? We get to know each other in ways that were sort of unthinkable just a short while ago, for good and for bad. But fingers crossed that the reversal of woke will be an influence on us here in the kingdom, because we are situated with a prime minister who is involved very much in all of that nonsense. And I say that as someone who has a fondness for him in some ways, because he is also a local at the Pineapple Pub, or used to be, because he lives across the road from it. I mean, he lives literally about 30 steps away from the entrance of the Pineapple Pub, or at least when he's not at Downing Street, that's where his house is. And I know it all too well. When it comes to the fires of LA, that's worth mentioning as well. I really can't wrap my head around what happened. You know, there are these natural disasters or unnatural disasters, however you want to process it, everywhere going on all the time. It's not just in America, I understand that, but I could scarce believe it. Even after seeing the footage, hearing the testimonies, it was like some strange, weird dream. You just can't imagine that something like that could happen in this day and age, could you? Some are critical of the governorship of that part of the world. Isn't it the nuisance boy? Gavin Newsom's? That's for you to tell me. Well, actually, it depends what party you vote for. You tell me different things, some scathing, some loving about Mr. Nuisance. But it is what it is. Oh, what an absolute disaster in the Palisades. An absolute disaster. And I don't know if it affected any of my fruits, but I do know that I have fruits from the Palisades. One is Livia of Junaluska Way. So I wrote it down, I can't read it. I think it's Junaluska Way. And Lee from Aloha Drive. I know that two of you are basketeers, and you're down there in the Palisades. Our love goes out to you. We hope that you're very safe and well. If you can hear a rumbling, I'm afraid my washing machine's going off. You just have to put up with it, my dear. But let's turn to the Harkles and their response for the LA fires. Because, of course, Archewell, they show up and they do good, don't they? That's their motto. We show up and we do good. They also run to disaster. And they also do no good, don't they, my dears? They also create calamity and disaster and run away from that. They say they run too, but they run from it as well, once they've created all the mess, don't they? What a paradox. They school the peasants and the paupers and the proles on how to help, and this is what sticks in my craw, trying to school everybody, and the performative nature of their response. Open up your homes, you selfish commoners, they cry. We took in Doria. See how kind we were? We saw lowly Doria and we took her into our safe haven at the castle of the Riven Rock. The Riven Rock. Excuse me, my dear, slip of the tongue, literally. Do you understand? We had J.R. Murringer over. Yes, we looked after him while he was doing his writing. He needed safe haven at our guest house, and I baked him cookies every single day, and I put on extra treacle and extra applesauce. They say if a friend, loved one, or pet has to evacuate their homes, they're talking about, by the way, not their bowels, like the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, they evacuate their bowels every time they open their gobs. If a friend or a loved one or pet has to evacuate and you are able to offer them a safe haven in your home, please do so, and please be sure to check in with any disabled or elderly neighbours to see if they need help evacuating. Well, now we know what they're going to title the first episode of Cooking the Books with Love, Meghan. How to suck eggs with the Duchess of Sussex, and how to suck other things. Well, it would be admirable, wouldn't it, my dears, if it wasn't so performative. But it is, and they don't care if you offer safe haven. Do not get it twisted and do not believe what they say. They couldn't give a shit if you offer safe haven to all the vagrants of Venice Beach and Santa Monica Boulevard. They couldn't give a flying fuck about it, my dears. What they care about is letting the world know that they are magnanimous. That's what it's all about, my dear. They want the world to know that they are philanthropists and they will just help any poor soul that's in trouble. Except their own family members. On Instagram on January 1st, there was much sophistry. We saw Meghan skipping along the beach. Did you enjoy that? Her arms were flailing everywhere, flailing behind her, and the flippers were flapping about all over the show on the shore. And she scrawled the date into the sand. Where's Belinda Carlisle and her circles when you need them? And this was filmed by H. Oh, darling H. I'm ready for my close-up. Not too close. They thought they were in some kind of Calvin Klein eternity commercial, didn't they? Yeah, I have been told that I look like Christy Turlington, except a little bit, a tad more beautiful than her. Yeah, right. So natural and spontaneous she is, isn't she? So natural, so carefree. I was wondering if Madonna and her mermaids would pop up, as in the Cherish video, at any given moment covered in seaweed, but that didn't happen. But this mythical creature doesn't need mermaids. No. And actually, I reject any notion that it might have been carefree and natural and spontaneous, because in fact it was calculated and crafted. And that isn't just a hunch. It was plain to see. Because they left their tracks of the previous takes in the sand. It was written on the wall, and now it's written in the sand, my dear. There was nothing spontaneous about that. You did about 50 takes to try and get it right, try and get the best angles. H, you're not getting me right. Are you so stupid? You can't do anything. You can't even take a picture of me. Get the shot right. Let's tug on those heartstrings, Harry, just like I did to Daddy. And then she posted the trailer for Cooking the Books. I've always loved taking something ordinary and elevating it. Well, at last she speaks the truth. You certainly do, Meghan. You certainly do. Because if anything's ordinary and mediocre, it's you. But you managed to elevate yourself through marriage to a Duchess of the Kingdom, while lowering your standards. She is a study in artifice. Do you understand? A study in artifice. So much so, it gives the River Broadcast a run for its money. Do you understand? And then we have a vignette in memory of Guy, the little dog, who died. She says he was the best guy any girl could have asked for. Well, of course, this left Harry seething with jealousy, no doubt. Man or mutt, he's the one stuck in a rut. And he's going to be seething with jealousy at that remark. What do you mean? Is that sort of competition for my affection? You preferred Guy over me, your Guy? What is going on, Meghan? Well, I do, in authenticity, extend my sympathies and my compassion to the Duchess. And there were vignettes of them with the kids looking delightful. Yeah. It is very sad. It is very sad. Well, I suggest that she reads, Meghan dear, read the book by Catherine's brother that was recently published, a book on grief regarding his own dog. It might help you heal. Yes, that book by James Middleton is exactly what you need. There was a message from His Majesty the King regarding the recent air accident in Washington, D.C. My family and I have been profoundly shocked and saddened by the dreadful news of the tragic air accident in Washington, D.C., which has led to such a devastating loss of life. Our hearts and special thoughts are with the people of the United States, and our deepest possible sympathy goes to the families and loved ones of all the victims. I would also like to pay a particular tribute to the emergency responders who acted so quickly to this horrendous event. I pause there because I think it should actually read, who acted so quickly in response to this horrendous event, but I shall defer to the King. I shall not be too pedantic. Thoughts with all involved, the family, the friends, the crew and the passengers. Speaking of which, in more concerning news about wokery and the dumbing down of society, this article made my heart sink that popped up. It was regarding National Rail, who look after all of our railway networks and trains here in the kingdom. Apparently new guidance has been issued to their staff asking employees to use less formal language in a bid to reduce customer frustration. Which you might think sounds thoughtful, but I'm afraid to my ears it sounds like a dumbing down, and it sounds absolutely obscene, and I've got a good mind actually to write into the head of Network Rail, because I think this is extremely troubling. What is society becoming? What's happening to the kingdom? The late Queen dies and the kingdom goes with it, as anybody with children will tell you. With mindfulness, you understand, there is a time and place to simplify language for children, but they will reach up to you. They will absorb where you are and try and climb to it. You don't have to stoop and bend to what one considers to be their level of intelligence or ability to absorb data. You don't need to baby talk a child at 5 years old, 10 years old, or even at 3 years old. You don't have to baby talk them when they're not babies, and even then, it's a stretch. It stifles the minds of children at the time when their brain is like a sponge and at its most expansive. Do you understand? And, you know, I'm drawing that comparison because that's what we're seeing here with the way that they're treating passengers, which you're not allowed to say anymore. I'll flash up a little chart of old-fashioned words that are being replaced by, apparently, less confusing language. So passengers, if the staff are referring to passengers in speech, they don't have to just say you. Instead of purchase, you purchased a ticket. That won't do, it's too confusing. Buy. You buy. You don't obtain anymore. You can't obtain information. You get information. This is Britain. This is supposedly Great Britain we're talking about here, my dear. Home to its greatest export, the English language. Envied the world over. There are many beautiful languages in the world. East, west, north, south. Many, many beautiful languages. But the richness of our language is legendary. The extent of our lexicon and our vocabulary is a jewel in our crown. It's admired the world over. And this reductive claptrap is more DEI mischief as far as I'm concerned, along those lines, more wokery, just dumbing down. You are encouraged not to use the words mother and father. They must be parent now. Just use the word parent. You don't want to get anything wrong or insult anybody. And also you can't refer to pregnant women in this guidance. You should just say pregnant people. People. Don't specify the gender. Don't dare do that. 134 pages is this document, and I would like to place every single page of that 134 in the hearth behind me. And seeing as it no longer works, I would then follow that up by chucking the lit candelabrum into it, so that it all goes up in flames and in embers. It's all a great pity, all of this, because this sort of informality is sloppy. It's creating a sloppy society, and I'm not looking for warm friendship from my institutions, my banks, my post offices, railway stations, hospitals. I'm looking for efficient, diligent service. And I think that everything that is being suggested and insinuated in this document, sinister and entirely vulgar. The Princess of Wales paid a visit to T. Harfan following the announcement that Her Royal Highness will take over as patron of the charity. Since opening in 1999, the Children's Hospice near Cardiff in Wales has been supporting families to ensure that children with life-shortening conditions live fulfilling lives. Charles served as patron from 2001, and now it's Catherine's turn. And by the way, there have been reports that Catherine is eager to pull focus on her work instead of her fashion choices. This hasn't come from her, but from a palace source supposedly telling the Times that it's going to be less about the outfits that she wears to public engagements, less information released from Kensington Palace. Well, I don't know how accurate this report is, or this source, but I noted the absolutely appropriate but unfussy wardrobe that the princess has been wearing of late. It's been unremarkable, you know, very appropriate, very lovely, but unremarkable in its way, and lots of rewears, as is natural and normal. Well, you know, I have always thought that the princess got the balance just right, a blend of the substance of her work and style. I feel that she has always hit the perfect note, especially in recent years. And I would urge a little bit of caution if there is any truth behind this, because royalty needs glamour. Without the glamour, it loses its lustre and its allure. Do you understand, my dear? And glamour isn't only about the physical accoutrement, the fashion, the jewels, but it's got a lot to do with it, my dear. And jewels and beauty, who have found their perfect model on the sublime Catherine, haven't they? The sublime model for it. They must be viewed and adored, my dear. Seen to be believed, as the late Queen said. She liked her bright colours, didn't she? As they all do. All I'm saying is that I would urge caution. The royal family must not get boring. But this appearance was one of 2 solo engagements in Wales, and this was the first day of this kind since returning to royal duties for Catherine. And she wore a Zara houndstooth pussy bow, an ivory coat, Chris Kerry bespoke, and Russell and Bromley blade heel court shoes. She took part in a musical session, and she helped children with their paintings. And later on she visited Corgi, which is a textiles manufacturer specialising in socks and knits, and she was quite simply a sensation, as was the Prince of Wales in his role as the Duke of Cornwall, as he visited Lower Blakemere Farm in Hereford to learn about the regenerative farming practices of this multi-generational farm on their harrowing journey towards net zero. Lower Blakemore Farm is one of the Duchy's 7 focus farms, and this is 730 acres with a specialism in seed growing and with a herd of South Devon cattle. William Cornwall met with the various steering groups while he was there to discuss ongoing projects, including the Ridge to River project. Ooh, the Ridge to River. Who would have thunk it? Well, you can stay away from my ridge, Big Willie. Oh, well, if you insist. If you insist, my dear. Who am I to say no? And at Nature Metrics, an Earthshot finalist, he squirted pond water at the press. Wouldn't Harry love to have a go at doing that? All in the name of science, of course. What an intriguing visual. And that is quite enough intriguing visual from me for one day, my dear. I look forward to seeing you on the next broadcast. Until then, take care and do have a lovely evening, won't you? Bye.